what's up guys? Joel Adams with Iridesium, and I am back with another tutorial. Today we're going to be taking a look at modeling a smartphone. So this tutorial is going to be a little bit long. We're going to be modeling it using blueprints, and then we are going to be moving on to shading it and setting it up so that we can get some pretty slick renders with it. So anyways, with that out of the way, let's jump right in and get started. I'm going to open up a new scene in Blender, and then I'm going to go ahead and delete everything. So A, X, and delete. Then go to the front view. I'm going to go Shift A and add in a background. Now we're going to go to the desktop, and I'm going to open up some blueprints. I will provide these blueprints for you so you can follow along. Now we're at the front view, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the face of the phone. So this one right here. Now currently we are in the front view. You get to that by hitting the 1 key on your numpad. If you want to get to the back, just hit 9. That will give you the opposite of whatever view you are on. Now I'm going to go Shift A, Image, and Background. Now we're going to add in the back of the phone. So we've got the front and the back. Now let's add in the side. So I'm going to hit 3 and then Shift A Mesh Background. I'm going to add in, I believe it's the left side. So if you go 3 to the side view, you should see this. And this button right here should line up with this button here. Yep. So now we're going to go 3 and then hit 9 to flip it and go Image, Background, and I'm going to add in the other side, which is the right. Okay, now I'm going to go 7, Shift A Mesh, Background, and this is going to be the top. Let's just make sure these cameras right here line up, and they appear to. Okay, now let's go 7, and I'm going to hit 9 again to flip it, Image, Background, and let's add in the bottom. And that should be good. You should have your blueprints all set up. Let's begin modeling the phone. I'm going to start by modeling this back piece. So let's go Shift A Mesh, Plane, and I'm going to go to the side view with 3, rotate 90 degrees, and then let's move it back. I'm going to hit Tab into Edit Mode and move it over here. Now in Object Mode, let's hit Control A and Rotation, Location, and Scale, just like that. Alright, so now I'm going to go Tab into Edit Mode, Control R, add a loop here and a loop here. Then click on this vertex, hold Control while I click here and then here. X vertices, and we should just have one corner. Add in a mirror modifier, and choose Z as well. I'm going to turn on clipping, tab into Edit Mode, and let's edit this. Go ahead and bring this up so that it aligns nicely with that. And this over so it aligns right here with the side of the phone. Now let's make this little curved area. I'm going to go Control R to sort of quarantine it, I guess. X vertices, go ahead and fill this space. And then I'll maybe subdivide it, and we'll say 3 times. Now I'm going to move this out, and this out. Very nice. Now I'm going to go Control R to add a loop here, and this is going to fill that, just like that. And then let's add one more loop right here, and this is going to fill here, and then this should fill nicely as a quad. So now Control 2 to add a subdivision surface. Do that while you are in object mode. Then I'm going to go Control R and add another loop here to tighten this up. Without the loop, you can see it's really smooth fall off, and we don't want that. And one more here. So it's already a really good start. Let's go here and look at our mesh. So you can see that what we need is a little bit of a bevel, I guess. This piece needs to come out a little bit and then move toward the phone as we get toward the edge of the piece. So I'm going to hit I to inset it. Now I need to remove all this inset data here. So what I'm going to do is hit B, box select all of this, X vertices, then hold down Control, select that, G, X to drag it over. This right here will be G, Z. This one as well. And then over here we'll go E, X, and fill this. Very nice. So now I can select this loop by holding down Alt and clicking on somewhere along the edges of it, and then go to the side view with 3, and I'm going to go G, Y, that. Now we're going to give this piece a little depth, so let's go E and extrude it just a little bit on the y-axis, and then E, Y again, something like that. Tab out into object mode, and then shade smooth. Alright, that's a pretty nice looking piece so far. I am next going to focus on this ring around the edge of the phone that has all the buttons and crap in it. So let's go into edit mode on this object and select this loop right here. Shift D, P selection. So with this, I'm going to go to the back with Control 1, or you can just hit 1 and then hit 9. And I'm going to go period 3D cursor. That's going to set our origin point to the 3D cursor. So if we hit E and S, it is now going to scale from the 3D cursor. So I'm going to go S and scale that up, and then SX, something like that. Now let's move to the side view, G, Y, and then E, Y. Now with this one, I want to mirror it across the y-axis as well. So go ahead and turn that on, and then drag these two together till they meet. You can see that the faces are sort of coming up here. So what's wrong here is that our normals are screwed up, and basically the mesh is inside it out. So to fix that, hit A to select everything, and then Shift N. That should fix it. Right click, shade smooth. Now back to the side view, I can work on this shape a little more. Control R, and let's scale this up. I'm going to go S, and then S, Y, SX, sorry. Something like that. Now I'll grab this loop and slide it down. Yep, something like that. Now I'm going to grab this loop here, and we're going to do the same exact thing we did with this piece. So go to the side view again, and then we're going to go E, Y, and then E, Y one more time. Control R to tighten that up as well. And that should be good. Now you've got this very subtle crease right here, which adds a lot of realism to the phone. So let's add a couple more pieces. I'm going to work on the front face, and then before we move to the details, we're going to add some materials and make it look really slick. So the first thing I'm going to do is duplicate one of these rings. So let's go to this piece, and I'll maybe grab this loop right here again. Shift D, P selection. Now go ahead and grab that loop, tab into edit mode, and I'll just drag this over just till it matches perfectly up with this edge. And you can see in the blueprints we're getting a little bit more of a curve here, as if the front of the phone sort of curves down as well. I'm not going to model that. You can if you want to. Of course, my model's not going to be perfectly accurate since I'm not modeling that, but I'm okay with that. All I want is a recognizable phone. It doesn't need to be exact. So let's hide this and this so that all we have is this wire. And we're going to model this strip right here around the edge of the phone. So E, S, and this time do Shift Y so it doesn't scale at all on the y-axis. That would be very bad. If you don't do that, it will scale towards the origin point here on the y-axis and become concave or invex. So now I'm going to go ahead and double tap G to sort of reposition these, and Control GX, and then I'm going to go GZ to tighten that up. You want to make sure that these are evenly distributed. The more evenly they're distributed, the nicer the curve is going to be. So something like that looks pretty nice. We obviously have to model this piece as well. However, before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and apply the mirror modifier across the z-axis, because we don't want to have to delete the z-axis part of this when we're done. So tab into object mode. I'm going to turn off the z-axis mirroring for this, copy it, and then turn off X and turn the Z back on, then hit apply. Now I've got the Z-axis applied. I can go to the front view and freely edit this. Control R, add that in. EZ. I'm going to pull this over. EZ. Control R. So you can try to control this just with the loop cuts like I'm doing here, or you can manually do it. I'm personally going to manually do it because it's going to be a lot safer, I think. EZ. We just don't risk ending up with a nasty curve that we don't want. And go ahead and fill that. Now I'm going to hit Control R and fill this. And Control R one more time. Something like that. That looks pretty nice. Now I'm going to add another loop cut here to again tighten up this this curve so that we don't get something we don't want. And that looks decent. Now we're going to do the same exact thing that we did last time again. We're going to select this loop and then switch to edge select and then this loop and here all the way around. Make sure it's all selected. Once you've got all of it selected, I'm going to go to the side view, hit Alt-H to unhide the other two pieces so you can see what we're doing in relation to them. And then go E, Y, just a tiny bit, and then E, Y one more time to give that some depth as well. Shade smooth. Now once you shade it smooth, you can see we've got this weird problem here again. That's basically the same thing we had earlier. Just tab into edit mode, hit A to select everything, and then Shift N to recalculate the normals. Now we've got this, I'm going to go ahead and model the actual screen. Now I'm going to select this piece right here, Alt and Shift. Shift D, P selection. So now, in order to see this better, again, I'm going to hide all the other pieces of the phone. Tab into edit mode. First thing I'm going to do is cut this area off. So fill that, and then fill this. So I'm going to have to add a loop here, and a loop here. Fill this, and that, and that. Now I'm going to go ahead and fill this piece down the middle. Fill that. Drag this over. And then I'm going to fill this. Control R. And then double tap G. Control R again. Double tap G. Go ahead and fill those. If you select one object and hit the slash key on your keyboard, it's going to solo that object so you can see it by itself. It's pretty convenient. So I've got this soloed so I don't see the background while I'm editing this. Go ahead and fill that. And then let's add another 2 edge loops and fill those. So we've got these 2 vertices. I think we can connect those here and here. Yep, we're going to have to add one more. Then select this and tap F. And then one more time. Now I'm going to go Control R and begin adding in these loops. 1 and then 2 more. Now if you select this on the end and fill it, and then just select these 2, you can just tap F until all those holes are filled. So let's hit slash on the keyboard to bring everything back, and then Alt-H to unhide it. Now with this piece, instead of selecting the edges, I'm just going to select the whole thing, and I'm going to first move it back. This is the actual bright part of the screen. Duplicate it, and I'm going to add in a solidify modifier. Tab into edit mode, Shift N to recalculate the normals, and give that some thickness, just a tad. Now let's drag it forward so it aligns with the front. So now this is the glass that goes over the actual screen. Pretty cool. So let's begin working on some materials and lighting setups for this phone. First thing I want to do is hit Control S to save this file. And once the file is saved, we're going to open an HDRI. So switch to your rendered view. I'm going to click this little icon right here. That will switch to our rendered view. Right now you don't really see anything. If you go to your world settings here and click on the color and then hit environment texture, then you can open this texture I will give you. It is an HDRI and it has this kind of cool soft green and red background like this. And it's just going to give the phone some sort of ambient and also cool looking lighting. So now that we've got this, let's add some materials. I'm going to go ahead and grab this ring, this rim, and we're going to give it a metallic material, and I'll turn the roughness down a bit, something like that, and we'll leave it white. That looks fine. Now we're going to grab this screen. I'm going to go new and give it a glass. Once we've given it a glass, we're going to need to go down under the settings and turn on screen space reflections, and then under the render settings, turn on screen space reflections and refraction. I'm going to hide the glass for now while we work on the actual LED behind the glass. Let's go new, emission, and then what you want to do is grab whatever phone screen texture you want. I'm going to go use an image texture actually and go open. And I should have this cool iPhone X screen open and tab into edit mode. We're going to UV unwrap it. In order to UV unwrap it properly, I'm going to need to apply the mirror modifier so that our UVs aren't mirrored as well. So go ahead to your modifiers and apply that. Hit 1, and we're going to switch over to the UV editor right here. Tab into edit mode, go to the front view. I'm going to go U, project from view. Scale this up, and if you switch to look dev, you can kind of see it working right here. And I'm going to set this right inside these white lines. Cool. Now I'm going to switch back to our layout here, and that looks pretty nice. Turn up the strength, and then what you can do is turn on bloom. Now if you hit Alt H, it's going to unhide the glass. You can't really see anything reflecting in the glass. Turn the roughness all the way down. I mean, you can, but it's our background is super ambient. So we're going to add a fancy shader to the background real quick. Drag open a new window here and switch it to the shader editor. Now switch to your world, and we're going to add two backgrounds. One background is going to be the background we see, and the other one is going to be the one that actually affects all the objects in the scene. So let's duplicate this, open up a new background, and we're going to choose this one. Now I'm going to go Shift-A, shader, mix shader, plug that in here, and then drag this into the top slot. Now we're going to go Shift-A, input, and we're going to add in a light path node. Put this up here and drag is camera ray into this mix. So now what we have is a sharp background reflecting in the phone, and then a sort of soft ambient background actually being displayed in the viewport. If I turn the strength of this up, that's going to make it so that when you move this across the screen, it will kind of glow. Pretty cool. So let's add materials to this rim. I'm going to go new, and we'll make this real dark and turn the specular all the way up and the roughness down. And then we're going to turn the base color down as well. So now I'm going to go ahead and add that same material. I'll just call this black to the back right here. This is going to get the black material. This right here is the glass, so we'll say glass, and call this one very nice. So this is the beginning of our phone. It's looking pretty slick, and what we need to do next is continue adding some details to the geometry we already have. So let's close this, switch back to solid view, and switch back to front view. Hide all of these objects except for the rim, and we're going to add in these buttons. First thing I'm going to do is apply all the mirror modifier. So go ahead and hit apply. It has been applied across all axes, and we can now edit any part of this without messing up the other parts. Switch to the wireframe, and we're going to add in some loops for this button here. If you go to the side view, you can kind of see what's going on with this button. Control R. And now that we've got those loops in there, let's mess with them a bit. I'm going to turn off subdivision for the edit mode and drag those up. Something like this. Now let's add another loop here and another loop here. I'm going to drag this over, double tapping G. Now I've got the perfect space for our button. Go ahead and select this, P selection. Let's go ahead and hide the button part, tab into edit mode. I'm going to select this whole loop, X, and then EX one more time. Then I'm going to add another loop of vertices here and one here to just tighten that up. Tab into edit mode, Shift N. Now add one here, 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 and here. Very nice. Alt H will unhide the button. We can now go ahead and select everything. Hit I to inset, and then G, X to drag this out. I'll select all these, EX, EX one more time. And let's add a couple loops to match the loops here. Something like that. Now I have a very nice button modeled right into this side. I'm going to add a material to this, delete that old material, and I'll call this flat black. And let's turn the darkness down and the roughness up. Maybe even further, something like that. And then I'm going to turn the bloom threshold up here as well so we don't get quite as much bloom. So let's switch back to solid view yet again, and we can continue adding details. So I'll show you how to do a couple more of these buttons, and then I'll let the rest of the details be up to you. There are some details here in the bottom of the phone. You can see there's this cord, and then there's these speakers. I'm going to go ahead and model all that little detail, and then I'll come back and we will work on the camera together. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and model this little charger port on the bottom. Now in order to do this, I don't want to have to model this side and then move over and model exactly this side. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit Alt H to unhide everything on this object. And then I'm going to hit B, box select, and then Control plus and P selection. Now on this object right here, I'm going to delete everything right here on the left and add a mirror modifier. Now we can model whatever we want. Then when we're done, we can apply this and add it back with this same object and remove all the double geometry. So now that we've got that, apply this mirror modifier, grab your original rim piece and hit Control J, then tab into edit mode, hit A and Alt M by distance. That should move, 26 vertices removed, and that should be good. So now let's model the camera on the back. I'm going to go Control 1 to go to the back view, and I'm going to hide all these pieces. just like that. Now let's go Shift A Mesh, Plane. I'm going to go RX90 and move this back. Now Control 1 again. Let's drag this up here, scale it down. And I'm just going to try to get the general shape of this thing. Something like that. All the way to the edges here. Now tab into Edit Mode and add a loop here and here. Delete all the excess geometry and add a mirror modifier. That's going to go on the X and Y. Tab into Edit Mode and let's go Control R. Again, we're going to sort of cut off this area. E, so that we can make it smooth. Fill. Something like that. Control 2. Let's turn clipping on. I'm going to go Control R, add a loop here. Fill this. And then Control R, add a loop right here. Fill this. And fill this again. So now we need to add this on the inside. Instead of doing it the way we did it on the phone, I'm just going to scale this piece down. Scale it on the X and model this inside first. Control R to add a loop and tighten up that curve. Now I can go select the edges here, Shift D, P selection, and I'm going to grab that and go Shift S, cursor to selected, period, 3D cursor, E, S, scale that up, scale it on the Y now, on the X, then drag that and this, till our curve is exactly right. So now that we've got this, let's extrude it. I'm going to go to the side view, G, Y, put it right against the phone right here, tab into Edit Mode, and extrude it out. Now we've got this. Again, we're going to add some loops to tighten all this up. Tab, right click, Shade Smooth. Now if you hit Alt-H, you should have this nice rim. So now this piece that we made can be the glass. I am going to add a solidify modifier again. Make it very thin. G, Y. Add in the glass material. This one's going to have the, I don't know, we'll say chrome. If that doesn't look good, then we'll switch to black. So now I'm going to hide this while we model the actual cameras. Shift A Mesh, circle, 16. Now let's go RX 90 degrees. Tab into Edit Mode. I will go period, median point, and scale this up. And then E, S, A, select all that. And let's move it back. Let's go Control 2. I am then going to add a little bit of glass on the outside here. And I'm going to actually reduce the resolution of this piece. Just like that. Right click, Shade Smooth. Let's add a loop here. Add those together. So now I'm going to go and add an array modifier. Let's set this to 1 and hold Shift to get more control over the value and then just drag that down. Very nice. I'm going to add a couple of materials to this. First one is going to be black and the second one is going to be glass. L and assign that. Alt-H. Let's model the flashlight. So let's go Shift-D and move this down. Kill this. I'm going to delete everything except for one loop cut. X vertices. One loop, sorry. This loop, scale it up a bit. This is a flashlight. So let's go E, Y. I'll go E, S, E, Y. Scale it in. Something like this. Again, I'm going to actually reduce the amount of vertices we have here to make it easier to handle. Now I'm going to make this into a square. So let's go Shift S, cursor to selected, add in a plane. Scale it down, R, Y, X, 90, sorry. And let's fill this. And this. Select that, Alt M, at last. At last. So now I've got this cube. I can extrude this out. That's going to be the actual LED. It's probably a bit big. Tab. I'm going to hit everything and Shift N. Select everything and then Shift N. Let's go I to inset this. A loop here and a loop here. So now Alt H, look dev, rendered. Looks pretty nice. What you can also do is you can actually go into the shader editor and you can grab something like the glass here. I'm going to go texture, noise texture. If you control shift click on the noise texture, it's going to show you that. I'm going to go control T if I have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled. Then it will allow me to do that control T. I'm going to plug this into the object instead of the generated. Now turn the scale down. Now I'm going to go color, mix, Shift D, plug that in here. I'm going to turn the distortion to 1 and the detail up. I'll add in a converter color ramp. Put that in the roughness. What I want to do is I want to actually plug this noise texture into the vector here. Go color, mix, and mix those. The more you turn this up, the more sort of bizarre noise you're going to get. Now with the color ramp, let's set this to B-spline. And carefully tweak this. We don't want too much roughness. Yeah, something like that. If you turn this darkness down, then the rough spots are going to be less rough. So now we've got a little bit of variation in our specular. You can copy this whole setup to the rest of the phone if you want. So now there's a couple other things you can model. If you were to go to the front view and hide everything except for this piece, you can see that there is a camera and this little speaker, I believe it is, in the front of the phone. You can model that if you want to. Otherwise, you can just leave it. What you might be able to do is use these existing vertices. Oftentimes, it's best to find existing vertices to model something out of rather than going and getting new ones. That way, your model stays lower resolution. So now if I P selection and Control R, and Control R here and here, and I can go with this. And move that in and then grab all this. Very nice. This I'm going to set to flat black. And you can do the same thing and model the camera there, which I kind of recommend because it's kind of obvious. In any case, this is how you're going to model the iPhone X. You can see it's come out looking really slick, and you can even come over here and tweak some of this. Maybe if I turn up the ambient occlusion, that will give us a little bit of darkening right here on the edges. And we've got screen space reflections on. Then what you can do is you can add in a camera, Control Alt Numpad 0. Then you can set up a cool angle, something like this. Now if you switch to rendered, you've got this, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to go to the camera settings, turn on depth of field. I'll set the focus distance and then turn the f-stop down. Now of course this is going to look nice in Eevee, however it's going to look better in Cycles. It always will, just because Cycles is a ray tracing engine. Actually, that's not true. I've had instances where Eevee looked better, but they are few and far between. That's basically it. Now all you need to do is animate some slow sweeping camera motions and add in some very generic business music, and you should have a pretty realistic iPhone ad. If you do come up with something, I would absolutely love to see it. Go ahead and join the Iridesium community with the link in the description and post your work there. Anyways, that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. This is Iridesium.